Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, in speaking with a couple sixth grade teachers, they said one of the things that her students are still struggling with is adding and subtracting fractions.
That's so easy.
And as you know, I'm kind of arrogant, and I want the sixth grade teachers to tell me how great of a job I did. I want them to go, man, Matthew, you can really add and subtract fractions. You must have had Mr. McMurdo.
Yeah.
So, for this week, at least, what's going to happen is we're going to have our short video on adding and subtracting fractions each and every single day. And then each and every single day this week, we're going to have the first thing you do after the video is a short assignment on adding and subtracting fractions. That'll be 5 grades that will go in the grade book. Today's is only 3 problems, which could be a problem if you don't show your work. I'm just saying. So make sure you show. Can you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you do well on these. Since many of you did not do well on the multiplication last week, it was just multiplication. You guys are in 5th grade. For the love of Pete! It is April 22nd. And some of you are not multiplying well. Put your hand down. All right, today we'll look at adding fractions. Let's start with the fraction or the problem. 1/4 plus 1/2. 1/4 plus 1/2. Matthew, what is the first thing we have to do?
You find a common denominator, then add them to get these works.
Good. I need to find a common denominator. What are my denominators, Matthew?
2 and 4.
2 and 4. I find a common denominator by listing the multiples. Think multiplication chart. Multiples. 2, 4, 6, 4, 8. Oh, look, 4 is my common denominator.
Yeah.
This is how we find our common denominator. You take your denominators, find the first one they have in common. Least common denominator. They are both needing to have 4 as a denominator. Paul, take that over here, please. They are both needing to have a denominator of 4, but you cannot change the value. We can't just put 1/4 over here. Because 1/2 and 1/4 are not equivalent. So this one is already over 4. So 1/4 is going to equal 1/4. This one I need to multiply by a fraction that equals 1 so that I can change 1/2 into something over 4 without changing the value. Zoe, what do I multiply by?
You multiply by 2.
Good, I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2. And my numerator here is what, Zoe?
2.
And I know that because 1 times 2 equals 2. Now I know some of you didn't do well on our multiplying last week, but that's what 1 times 2 does equal. Now, Eric, what do I do next?
You add them.
Add them. So what's my answer?
3/4.
3/4. Eric,
Yes, right.
can 3/4 be simplified? Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Did I do it correctly?
Yes, you did. Let's look at another one.
That was spooky. Yes. Something dropping on
3 6 plus 4 eighths. 3 6 plus 4 eighths. Nathan, do you notice anything about these two fractions? What do you notice about them?
They're both 1/2.
They both equal 1/2. They both equal 1/2. 3 6 is 1/2 because my numerator is half of my denominator. 4 eighths is 1/2. And Nathan, if I add 1/2 plus 1/2, what do I get?
A whole.
1 whole.
Oh,
That's my answer.
wait, what?
You didn't hear me? That might help you on one of the warm-up problems for those of you that haven't yet done them.
That's spooky. Which one?
And let's look at, let's take 7/8 plus 3/5. 7/8 plus 3/5. As my young friend once told me, you had to have a common denominator. Brooklyn, what would be my common denominator for 8 and 5? 40. Because I could list my multiples of 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. And I know I don't even have to list my multiples of 5. Because if I know my divisibility rules, I know for it to be a multiple of 5, it's either got to have a 5 or a 0 in the ones place. That's the first one with a 0 in the ones place. So I need to change both of these so that they're over 40. Both of these so that they're over 40. Natalie, shh, y'all are too loud. Natalie, I have to change 7/8 into something over 40 without changing the value. So what fraction that equals 1 should I use?
5.
5/5. And my numerator, Natalie?
35.
35. So what I'm saying is 7/8 is equivalent to 35/40ths. Eden, I need to multiply 3/5 by a fraction that equals 1. So that gives me a denominator of 40. I just said Eden. Why are you raising your hand? You're not Eden. Eden, what would you multiply by? 5 times what is 40? 8. So it's got to be 8/8. And Eden, what's my new numerator? 24. So now I have 35/40ths plus 24/40ths, which equals what, Paul? 59/40ths. And what's wrong with that, Paul? It's not a mixed number. It's an improper number. And how do I fix that, Paul? Excellent. I divide, because what this says is 59 divided by 40. So I do 59. I divide that by 40. It's going to go in one time. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to get 19. 1 remainder 19 is 1 and 19/40ths. Taylor, can I simplify 19/40ths?
No.
No, I cannot. The only factors of 19 are 1 and 19. And since 19 is not a factor of 40, then the only thing they'd have in common is 1. If my greatest common factor is 1, that fraction is already simplified. We'll do more tomorrow. We'll do subtraction. And then on Wednesday, we'll probably do addition. Then on Thursday, we'll do some more subtraction. And then on Friday, we'll mix it up. Boom, shakalaka, peace out. God bless, love you. Do something kind today. Subscribe.